Online schooling has been driving everyone crazy, from the parents to the kids to the teachers. I spoke to a mother who has three young sons who have been doing Zoom classes online, and she expressed her frustration with the way in which it had been going. One of her sons had had a particularly bad time because he completely failed. So we spoke to her and she told us about her experience. You have a 10 or 11-year-old son who has been doing the online schooling since the COVID thing happened, and he's been having problems. Can you tell me like about that?
Well, he's 11, and with online schooling, the biggest challenge for him was to stay interested in the class, which is being conducted via Zoom. And because it's at the laptop and he's at his own desk space, he realized pretty soon he didn't need to pay attention necessarily. And he get distracted easily by the option of Google and YouTube being just a click away. And even though I keep checking in regularly, his attention has wandered. Other than interest in the subject and the teacher-student engagement, just the fatigue of having to either they're working at the laptop and submitting the documents, or they're working in their copies and trying to follow the instructions. And then they have to scan that and submit that. And very often technical glitches happen here and there, and the document does not get submitted. And so they pass the deadline, or they lose the marks, or they've not understood the instructions. Issues like that have been coming up.
So, what happened at the end of the term when his grades came back?
Their school conducted the second term of the previous academic year in June, July, because they went into, after the lockdown, they closed school for the 2 months of April, May, I think, until they were figuring out how to do an online system. So June, July, he ended up failing across the board in his subjects, even though he was very intelligent. And I think it's mainly because submissions did not happen. Information about tests or quizzes would come up because it was coming on 3 or 4 platforms. I wasn't tuned in, he was not tuned in. We wouldn't manage to check all 4 platforms. Confusion, messages got mixed. So he ended up failing.
So what has been the sort of psychological falling out on you and your son? What's the effect of this sort of failing in the subjects and the frustration? I can only imagine that it's been very difficult.
Well, he's the kind of child who is a perfectionist, but he's also got low self-esteem. So when he doesn't do well, and if he can't figure it out, he gets very frustrated and he won't easily take help. So one thing I realized at the end of July was that he'd kind of shut down and, okay, I failed, so what? And I couldn't get across that we can actually formulate some action plans to make sure it doesn't happen again. We managed with maths, where he's now attending maths tuition. But with the other subjects, it's ongoing, where I have to try and figure out ways of how to get through to him without him giving up or shutting down out of stress and frustration.
And how has this been for you, this whole experience? Because you have a few other children as well who are also taking online classes.
Each one of the kids is very different in their personality. So although my approach and my way of thinking, I can easily connect with the other two, and they've been able to follow the action plans and take more responsibility. With this one, it's been very tricky. So I'm still figuring out. I ask other people for suggestions, advice, look up, do some reading. I'm considering maybe checking in with counseling just for him or him and me to see how we can get through this, because it's come to the point where he's become pretty apathetic about his studies. He's enjoying his maths because he's got maths tuition, but then he's also gone to the other end of the spectrum where he feels he doesn't need to pay attention in maths class anymore in the online session, because he's already covering it with his tuition teacher.
That's one-to-one.
Yeah. And he's actually going to her place, observing the SOPs, etc. So I think that human interaction has helped, knowing that that person's physically there to actually guide him when he's stuck rather than a screen.
So I think it's been frustrating not only for the child, but for you. It must be difficult also because might see his siblings doing better, so must increase his frustration. How has he been, how has this been making you feel as well?
Well, some days when I actually stop to think about it, I'm pretty terrified that if online schooling continues, I worry about the work habits that, because I'm not so pushed about the marks. Marks are simply indicative of how much effort you put in or how well, if the test suited you, if the concept was clear. What I worry more about is the work habits or the mindset that's developing through online schooling.
What do you mean by mindset?
If I think about our experience growing up and how we studied, the ability to take the initiative, to go look up things, to research, to work hard towards an end goal in academics, then to get the reward or to deal with the consequences and then figure out how to get better. I feel as if this child of mine, he's losing his desire to take the initiative. Also because they're just sitting at a desk from 8 o'clock till 1 o'clock. And the little bit of a break they get in between, they're simply going on to watch YouTube videos. So it's almost as if they're spaced out and not paying attention. That interest that you'd have in a subject, which you might usually have liked, now you're kind of spacing out because on the screen you've got so many faces and then one by one, and then all the work's just on the screen and it loses its appeal or interest, I suppose, in the subject. Then because everything's online, then research is also online. So that desire to do that extra bit of work is not there anymore. And also the ability to take a break from work because you can't go out anywhere now as such.
Right. So you must be on mummy groups, the WhatsApp groups, and have you mentioned this to the other mothers? You were talking about your son, about the girls. Is there something different that's surfacing with the girls that the women talk about?
Well, what I found was the mums of boys, generally everybody's been quiet. And then occasionally when I've been really frustrated, when I speak up on the group, people are slow to then acknowledge that, yes, they're also going through that. And I even put up anonymous posts on Facebook because I was like, I can't be the only one going this crazy. Like, marks are going downhill. The children are not interested in studying. It's a battle to get them to their desks, to be interested if a test is coming up, to care about their work. I was like, I can't be the only one. So in the end, when the school mums groups weren't responding so much, I actually went and put a few anonymous posts on our Facebook groups. And then lots of people started coming forward and saying, yes, we hate it, it's driving us mad, etc. But I did notice an interesting thing in the school groups that boys' mums were dealing with the same, that loss of interest, that apathy, the desire to go out and even play or do anything had gone down. They were not so active anymore, and they were okay being almost imprisoned in the house and just sitting at their screens. But the girls' mums, on the other hand, the school had, they've recently introduced extra classes, which are like, you have art, you even have PE online, different activities of art through recycled objects or embroideries, etc., different activities, and even chess, etc., photography classes. And I found that the girls were actually attending these classes and the boys just didn't fancy doing them. The girls were, and I just wondered, is it a work habit that girls have? They're fond of studying and boys are not.
So the last question is that what has been the school's ability to help a parent navigate what is clearly a very different way of getting schooling done? And not everyone is tech savvy. Not everyone has 10 laptops sitting at home, strong internet connections. The power gets cut during the day. The children, they can't sit for that long. Has the school been kind of talking to you about your
I,
frustration and difficulty?
not so much. I don't know why. I've in the beginning when we had the open house online, they spoke about how we understand that laptops have to be shared or desktops have to be shared, that internet sometimes gives trouble, that occasionally you have power breakdowns, etc. But once the course started, and some mothers would message on the groups like, can you please inform the teacher we can't because power went or internet not working or whatever. The response from the teachers is just pretty they don't particularly care, and it's no longer an excuse valid enough. So I found that the mothers were having to justify constantly, and then there's the backup, everything, backup generator, backup Zong gadgets, etc. But even though the school says that they understand, it doesn't really come across, at least to the students, because the students are terrified if the power goes. They panic. The teacher's going to get mad. Our camera has gone off. Quickly, 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 and everybody's just running around scrambling to get their class back up live. So in theory, the school is understanding. It doesn't quite pan out.
Okay, well, if do you have any questions for like a psychologist if we would ask, how we're supposed to cope with all of this? Because I know that there are parents across Pakistan who are probably struggling with the same thing.
What I would be most interested to ask a psychologist would be, what are the effects, long-term impact of this online schooling that I should look out for in my child? Because it's been about 4, 5, maybe 6 months of online schooling, and it takes 6 weeks for a habit to form. So we're looking at what should we be expecting children, their mindsets have been altered. The way they are having to deal with education, it's changed. So how should we change our parenting approach to deal with the negative impact of this? Because I'm sure we're going to see the results of this when kids get to grade 9, 10, or 11. That's what I'd be interested in, because I can see my children, they've lost that desire, that they've lost that urge to take the initiative. That's slowly gone downhill. And that's just something I wonder, that long term, what do they think the impact would be of lockdown and online schooling?
Right, right. No, we'll definitely try to get some answers. Thanks a lot for those incredible insights, and we'll definitely try to get some answers on that.
Thank you.
And after that, I spoke to psychologist Mahnoor Shaikh, who has been working on these issues, to ask her for some of the solutions. Hi, Mahnoor. So you're a psychologist, and you heard the audio of the parent, the woman who said her 10-year-old son is struggling, and she is struggling as well.
Yeah.
So she had a question at the end, and I think there are other things you may have also noticed in her tone. I think a lot of parents are going through this. If you could kind of help us understand and give advice to parents, or just any insights you can offer.
This is a very tough time for all of us, as we can see that this is a time of uncertainty where we don't know what is going on, and if the borders are going to open up, if the schools are going to open up, if work from home will end, and if I should be going to work even if my workplace is open. So all of this is not just taking a toll on the kids, but the parents as well, because all our lives I feel like we've been taught to learn through interaction, through socialization, through a routine when we go to school, right? But that's not happening anymore. And the monster, the demon, the screens that we wanted to take away from the kids so much have now become their schools, right? And it's ironic because that's not how we imagine it to be ever. So there's this lack of rules, structure, routine, and even infrastructure, let's say, because kitchen tables and dining tables are the new schools, classrooms, I mean, and it's become very overwhelming for parents because their responsibility has increased tenfold, because now they have to be hands-on. Pele, they would just drop off the kids to school and be done with it, right? But now they're like, this is just, I was talking to one of my friends also. She said, I am the most anxious at this time because my child just does not sit. And she was talking about a 4-year-old, right, in kindergarten, but she's not equipped to make the child sit. That's what a teacher is there for, to, get their attention, grab their attention, and make them sit in a classroom. But this does not happen virtually. A teacher can't just pop out of a screen and help the child sit and, listen to the lecture or complete their tasks. So it's been surprising because for some of the kids, it has actually turned out to be a very good option and they're thriving and they're doing well. But these are the kids who already have really stable personalities and really stable relationships and good levels of self-esteem, right? But what about those who just haven't, who've always struggled with all of these things, right? They have become even more invisible, I feel. And their anxiety levels and depression levels maybe have increased because if they are not able to fulfill a task virtually or attend a class or upload an assignment, that really is a blow to how they feel about themselves. And so it's not everyone's cup of tea, and especially kids with special needs. उनके लिए तो बहुत ही problem है because they need to be on a routine and they're not anymore. So it has now become a group effort of teachers and parents and students trying their best to keep up with the pace that is required in virtual schools. Usually they say that kids are very resilient. They're like sponges. They will soak up whatever you give them. But let's not make this one size fit all thing, because there are kids who need help and there are parents who need help with this because they're struggling with online schooling of 3 kids with 3 different laptops and, making them sit. What can be done now is that you all and we all have to understand that these are difficult times. Unfortunately, this is something that you've heard before, but this is going to be the new normal for some time. So it is what it is. We have to go on our survival mode. But we have to understand that this is something that we can manage. We just have to understand each child's abilities and what their needs are. So this particular lady that shared her experience, she said that 2 of my kids are doing really well, but one is struggling. So as a parent, it's going to take an extra effort, but you really have to listen to the child and see where he or she is struggling, right? And then cater to their needs. What can be done though to make this virtual learning experience, and for all kids, a not so horrible one, or even for parents, is that you have to make it replicate as much as you can of a normal school life into it. So not just Zoom classes, make Zoom play dates and lunches with other kids and assignments and homework with their peers where they can sit and discuss, normalize that so that they have something other than a formal class lecture online. They have social interaction, they have storytelling, they have something other than this, right? And another thing that is very important is that you need to set up a routine, get them into a rhythm. Kids need structure. Students need structure. They cannot function without it. And if there is no structure, if there is no routine in the house, then you're going to struggle, they're going to struggle, everyone's going to struggle, right? So it's very important for them to have a routine as they normally would at school. I've heard some moms are packing lunches into their lunch boxes and snack boxes, even at homes, just to give them that feel that, okay, this is your break. And now this is what you have to eat. If you want to go outside and, catch some air, please do that, because they need this, right? They just can't be sitting in a box and in front of a screen, and you can't expect them to give you that same kind of attention at the time. So a routine is very, very important here. But I have to say, if your child is showing signs of anxiety and depression and loss of appetite, lack of interest, lack of sleep, or too much sleeping, any of those symptoms, you have to speak to a professional, because that's not normal. These are some of the long-term effects that can come out of virtual schooling, right? So anxiety levels can be high, uncertainty is obviously high, procrastination levels will be high, kids might not be as motivated, not all of them, some of them, right? Those who are resilient enough naturally will do better, but those who are struggling, you have to look out for them. So as parents, I would feel that if you feel like your child is struggling, just sit down and talk to them, maybe take them to a professional and help them out, because nothing is more important than your child's health, right? Or mental well-being. I would just advise parents and teachers, please, to take it easy. if your child was not able to submit an assignment because of some glitch, please be understanding. This goes for the teachers also, that these are difficult times for all of us, and we're just getting used to this whole idea of virtual schooling and online schooling, uploading assignments. It can be a really difficult task for many parents, right? So just give them the time that they need to understand this. Don't just fail these students because they fail to upload their assignments, right? That is not going to help anybody in this case. If anything, that is going to worsen the mental health of the child, because they would feel like a failure, and they're not even that, right? Because this particular child did complete his assignments but wasn't able to upload them. So you just need to be a bit more understanding, and just take it easy. This is not the end of the world. If your child is not doing as well as he or she was in actual like school, physically going to school, that's okay. They will recover, they will come out of it. Just listen to them and understand what is going on through their heads. And good luck. I think we all need it during these difficult times, but hopefully this will all be over soon.